What's going on, guys? So I got the Xbox here from my last video. As you can see, it turns on, but I have a confession to make. It has the blue light of death. As you can see, bam. It doesn't do it anymore. So I damaged the motherboard while putting this together. I mean, for like the 50th time. This thing's been modded tons of times. But when I had the other Ring of Light board in there, I noticed it had the red dot, but I kind of just figured I didn't have the DVD drive plugged in. But I'm like, does that work for the Slim? I don't know. I put it in the back of my head and just kept putting it together until, well, there is no picture. Everything else works, but there is no picture when you plug it in. So what do? Well, $40. Got a new Xbox. Now that's all it is. Console only. Console only. It was advertised as a 4 gigabyte, even though, correct me if I'm wrong, but the glossy ones were the 250 gigabytes, and it said no hard drive, but it did have this in there. So this is a 250 gigabyte model. Now the only difference is that these are glossy, the other ones are matte finish, and these ones actually come with a hard drive. Otherwise, the 4 gigabyte, they just have 4 gigabytes built in. So we're just gonna basically be swapping everything over because I just finished this. This thing's too cool, and we got some fluid for it and a couple other things we're gonna add and try to improve on. Okay, so I'll go over a little bit what's going on the inside when we get these taken apart. But as you can see, I've got this. I cannot remember who makes this. It was Magicool, I feel like, but I got it a long time ago. I hadn't seen a radiator with clear ends like this before. I think they have some newer ones now where one end is like that, but so obviously this one it's old, it's a little bit yellowed, there are some micro cracks in there, but it still holds water. It's also the exposed copper, and when I redid this case, which I'll add in some pictures, and I found this cool paint. I redid the frame, DVD drive, faceplate. I paint the frame because of the clear case, you can actually see it on the back. And then I also have the end caps that are copper, which again, I haven't been able to see or find. Sorry about that, haven't been able to find these. So, again, copper, copper, copper. Had a whole thing going on there. So, I came across a video that is like 9 years old now. Somebody saying the world's first fully internal water-cooled 360 Slim. And it was a 9-part video, but they never actually completed it, and there was no hard drive in there. The tubes clearly went out of the case, but like I said, it was never finished. So I wanted to try to do that, but obviously there's a reason it's very difficult to do that with the Slim. There's just way less space in there. When you get the heatsink out, I mean, there is some room back here, but for like a regular pump, not really. And obviously you need a reservoir and radiator that's going to be sufficient to actually make it worth it and cool the system. So my main goals with this build was to be able to have it upright and laying down and still function both ways. I didn't want to take out the hard drive, wanted to keep it in place, even though it's not inside of the shell, so you can't really take it out the way you normally would, but I don't need to take it out. I also wanted to keep the original fan and fan tunnel in there. We'll show you the water block I used, but basically there's no fan on this radiator. The fan on the inside blows air out the side of the Xbox, pulls it in through the top and bottom, and instead of going right outside the case, I have the radiator in the way with a gasket around here, so it forces it through here as well. Just to keep it slimmer, I didn't want to add a fan. Yeah, so anyway, let's get these two taken apart. Now, I guess before doing anything else, we should make sure that this one actually turns on. Completely silent. Now, I know this one, when it turns on, this has a Talisman Whisper fan in it. When it first turns on, you can hear the fan boots up to, like 12 volts and then settles back down and becomes quiet. And then it doesn't really turn back up after that. This one is just dead silent, but it is blowing air. And we're just going to make sure it actually loads up a game. It says reading. So as you guys know, with Xboxes, the FAT and the 360, and I assume it's the same for the newer consoles, you can't just swap out the motherboard or the DVD drive. The motherboard on the DVD drive, they are linked together, so if you put in a different DVD drive, it's not gonna, the motherboard's not gonna get along with the DVD drive basically. So we gotta swap. Everything's getting swapped over. So basically, the internals of the DVD drive and the motherboard. So here we go. Okay, just got the side vent off, and I think we will need the vacuum for this one. Okay, so we got this taken somewhat apart. It still had the warranty stickers on it, which is a good sign. See how dirty it is. Okay, actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, the fan is definitely pretty dirty. But yeah, as you can see, it definitely draws in a lot of air, mostly from the top here, going under the DVD drive. Now I realized one thing I need to fix when I reshell this is I actually blocked that area with a LED strip, so that's not good. I mean, that's not why I got the red dot. It already had that, but I just noticed that's something I'll need to move when I switch the case. I'm actually planning on using different LEDs anyway. Okay, so I got the DVD drive out. Now here's something I noticed, which now that I think about it, the first Slim I ever took apart was like this, where the cables for the hard drive, one goes up here and one goes down below, should be next to where the fan plugs in, which is just a little strange because the one on this one, as you can see, both cables actually plug in right up there, right where the other SATA cable for the DVD drive plugs in. So that might actually help me out, getting a little more of the stuff out of the way, but I don't know, we will see. Okay, we got the new Xbox torn down all the way. All the screws are out. The board's just sitting in there. Now we're going to take this one apart. First things first, gotta drain all the fluid out. Okay, so we got the fluid drained, got the case taken off, the reservoir and pump taken off, DVD drive out. See some of the wiring and stuff in here. So part of my goal with this was not to cut into the clear case at all. I made an exception with this bezel that just covers the ports on the back. We have a hole drilled there where we've got a fitting here that's attached to the Xbox where we can attach something from both sides. Here we have a 90-degree block that has the fluid going around into the block, out of the block, and it goes underneath, and that's what went out of the pump there. And then on this side, that's where we got our 90 or flow meter, goes into the radiator. Okay, we got our fan moved out of the way here. You can see the water block I used, and it's just a cheap water block, no name brand. I do have a 360 Slim specific water block, but it has the ports on the top, and I really wanted to see if I could use the stock fan. Now this isn't technically the stock fan, but it pretty much is. The only difference is the fan is actually attached to the tunnel itself, whereas before, it's the fan and then the tunnel, it's two separate pieces. But it's the same thing, it's just this one's see-through and has LEDs, and it's supposed to be quieter. But yeah, this water block fit underneath, so I went with that one. Got to loop it around here. I wanted to keep this tray here because one, that's part of holding the case together. Helps guide the screws through and doesn't pinch the ends together. This keeps them the right distance. And then it's also attached to this, which holds the DVD drive in place. Keeps it off the motherboard. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna take the rest of this apart and swap the motherboards. Oh yeah, and you can see here, that is where the power for the hard drive and the SATA. And on the other motherboard, that's down here. And I originally got this extension cable, which I was going to use, but it's way too long and very bulky. I don't think it's going to help. Especially since in the new motherboard, since those are separated, I don't need to worry about the power cable. I have plenty of SATA extensions, and then I can just extend that over here so that they're both over here, and then it'll be a lot easier to I'll have more play with this, because with this one, they're very short, and although it fits over these tubing and fittings here, it barely does, and if it was a little bit longer, it would sit nicely down there. So the new motherboard should be easier to work with. Plus I can use a 90-degree SATA connection here that will allow a little more space for this tube. Okay, now this will probably be it for this video. Part 2, we will actually have the bare motherboards, swap those. I'm still waiting on a couple extra parts anyway to put the whole thing together, but we will see you in the next video. If you have any questions on how we did it, just leave a comment. Our monitor here is grounded to the chassis, and the power is taken off the DVD drive here, and also off the DVD drive is our connection here, which is just a 3-pin 12-volt for the pump and fans and lights and, sorry, not fans. The fan has its own thing. I'm not tapping into that at all. But, yep, there we go. Okay, it is time to clean all of this up before my cats chew all the wires. Now, guys, I'm also working on several other projects at the same time. I still have the Chrome PS3 Slim. We're going to be redoing that a little bit and possibly putting that up for sale. We will see. I'm also working on a fat Xbox. I know some people are like, "Wow, you're still modding a 360 Slim." Well, we're actually working on a fat Xbox as well. I actually got it down here. This was in one of the previous videos, but basically I ordered a couple broken Xboxes for 30 bucks in hopes that they have the right DVD drive so I can use the case, get rid of this crappy thing here. It just doesn't work. I've tried everything. So we're going to put a regular case on there and paint it. Now, on top of that, I'm going to finish water cooling this. It's going to be mostly internal. There'll be a little bit of stuff sticking out at the top, but it'll be flat. It'll basically be internal. Now, like I said, I'm hoping with the 2 broken Xboxes that I ordered, they both have red ring. I'm hoping I can fix them, at least one of them. And if I can, I have a spare water block, and I'm planning on doing a stealthy internal water-cooled build, a second 360 Fat that I plan to put up for sale, if anybody's interested on that. Also, I dug out my old PSP, ignore the rubber bands, I took all the screws off trying to fix it, and I at least got it to turn on, which is nice. Still has a custom firmware. I plan on trying to bid on a broken PSP or a parts PSP that I can swap stuff into and make this less crappy. So we'll have something on that soon. And finally, guys, we have PS3 Slim. Slightly different than when it was in the video. It now has a red monitor, which I'm going to be swapping again. We're going to be cleaning this up and possibly putting it up for sale as well. Thank you guys for watching. See you in part 2, working on the 360 Slim, and I'll see you next time.